Alright, peace, Mike. I'm gonna show you how to chop a drum loop, chop drums on the 16. I'm gonna use the Impeach the President drums. You don't have a copy of that, you can grab it from YouTube. It's only like the sample only like 5 seconds or something like that, right? So I'm already in my sampling screen on EPS and set my sample rate. Okay, and go over here because I'm sampling it out of the computer. Okay, and set it to receive when it go past that threshold. Okay, go over here, hit the space bar, start taking a sample. Bring it up on the board so you can hear it. Now, what I do sometimes is how you got, play root key or whatever. I go all the way to the lowest key, and then I make that the root key, right? And see, you got the whole sample there, right? Okay. Then right after I do that, what I do is I go to Edit, Pitch, and that brings you to this screen. And it tell you that the root key is C2, right? I go back 1. And that's where you can set the wave sample range, right? You say the low key is A0 and the high key is C8 all the way up here, right? So I move that underscore or whatever over to the low key, and then I hit that C2 to set the low key there, right? And it automatically go over to the high key. I hit that same key, that C2 again. Now I come out of that screen, just hit Edit, and tell you wave sample 1. That's the only wave sample, right? Okay. Now it's just on this key, right? Just on that C2, because the low and high is set to C2. Let me sit down. All right. So I go to start chopping. I go to Edit, and when I hit it once, it brought us back to that pitch screen where we could set the high and the low key. But I don't want to be there. I'm trying to edit the wave. I don't want to be in Edit Pitch. I want to be in Edit Wave. Okay. And I presume you know how to truncate samples and just take the part you want. But I'm finna show you how to chop this. And you're not going to use any more memory. That's the dope thing about the Sonics. Go over. That's that sample start. It's to set your start time, right? Right. So I'm going to listen to it for a second. I want to see what come out right after that kick. Sound like a hi-hat. So I bring the start up. Wait, hold up. Make sure your wave sample is selected. I had it set to all. That's why I said no layer editing allowed. So I hit the key. Now it shows me that wave sample 1 is selected. Go back to Edit Wave. Move that start up to the beginning of that hi-hat, which is the second sound in that drum loop. And I passed it. So let's go back a little bit. So the hi-hat come in at like 6 on this sample, right? So, and we still at sample start. So how to chop it, I go over to sample in, and I bring the end all the way down to where my start was, right? Because that's where the hi-hat started. Then I bring this start back down to 0. Because remember, the kick led the sample off, right? And when I press the key now, we should just hear just the kick. We won't hear the entire sample. Just to verify, the start is at 0, because when I started taking the sample, the kick led it off. My end, I moved down to 6, because 6 is where the hi-hat came in, which is the second drum sound. Okay? So, see how I'm holding it down? And it's not playing the rest of it, right? Okay. Now, we chop. We're gonna, you see there's nothing on this key. C2, remember we set the low and the high? We're gonna put the hi-hat on this key. You do that by coming out of Edit Wave, and you go to, I don't know if you can see, you go to Command, not Instrument, or Wave, and you scroll until you come to Copy Wave Sample. Enter, and it says where you want to copy it. I don't have any other instruments loaded up, so we copied it to this. You use the right arrow, go over, layer 1, we're still in 1 layer. The layers you can use to stack sounds, like you can have a snare on 1 key in layer 1 and then put a completely different snare, or the same snare pitched down on layer 2 to like thicken the snare or kick or whatever. But for now, we just using 1 layer. Go over, and you get to this screen where it says copy, parameters only. But if you use the up arrow, there's another option, parameters and data. Now what the parameters plus data function does is create a duplicate of the sample. So if the sample was, let's say the sample used 1 meg of memory, right? If I copied using parameters and data, now I would be using 2 megs of memory in the sampler. And as you know, the EPS don't have that much RAM. It's only 2 megs blown out. So to get around that, and Sonic came up with this little cool feature where I'm going to use the down arrow to go back to parameters only. Now what this one does is it makes a not necessarily, it's a copy, but it's more of a reference to the original data. You know, if the sample is 1 megabyte, it doesn't make an exact duplicate using 2 megabytes. It's like placing markers on a sample, right? And I'm gonna show you I'm gonna come back to this screen, but I'm gonna show you how much memory is in the EPS right now, the blocks. And you find out that by going to Edit, System, and it'll tell you 36, 37 free system blocks, right? Now I'm gonna show you the difference between copy, parameters, and parameters and data, and how they affect your memory. Right? So I go back to Command, Wave, Copy Wave Sample, to unnamed instrument, yeah. Layer 1, yeah. Let's do parameters and data, so I can show you how it affects your memory. Okay, it says Wave Sample 2 created. Now, what you have to do when you copy a sample, whether you're using parameters only or parameters and data, you have to assign a key range for it. And to do that, you go to Edit, Pitch. First of all, let's make sure Wave Sample 2 is selected, right? Because we're setting the key range for Wave Sample 2. So you go to Edit, Pitch, and you see Wave Sample 2 has the same low key and high key as our first sample, Wave Sample 1. That was the entire sample, right? So we'll set it to this key, which is C sharp 2, right? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you that we have 2 wave samples in there, right? That's Wave Sample 1. Listen to it too, because it's going to be pitched up a little bit. It's wave sample 2. Sound almost like that first one, but it's a duplicate. Remember we had 36, 37 was it, and the free system blocks. But since we copied parameters and data, we're going to have less memory now to work with. So you go to check your memory, you go to Edit, System. See, now it's down all the way to 3194, right? Now what I'm going to do now is select wave sample 2 and delete that and use the copy parameters only, not the parameters and data, so we can save memory. So I select the wave sample by going to Edit, hitting the key where that wave sample we placed it on C#2, and then I go to Command, Wave, delete wave sample, right? Okay, it's gone. Now our system memory should be back at 36, 37. You check your memory by hitting Edit, System, and we back at 36, 37, right? Now, let's copy wave sample 1 using the parameters only in Command Wave. Okay, so you hit Command Wave. Okay, we're already there. So we go back one to copy wave sample. The unnamed instrument, right? Over layer 1, right? Because we only have one layer. We didn't create a new layer or anything. Right? And we're going to take it off of parameters plus data and parameters only. Wave sample 2 created. Now, just to verify that when you copy parameters only, it uses less memory. We're going to verify that by checking our free blocks. Edit, System, 36, 36. So it used like way less memory. Okay, now let's place wave sample 2 in the key range that we want. We could put it anywhere on the keyboard. And it doesn't have to, when you chop a drum break, it don't have to be one hit, you know, on this key and then the next hit here. You could have that first wave sample, that kick, you could have it spread out, you know, 1 octave, and then have the snare on the 2nd octave, so you can have like multi-pitch like cats are doing on the SP12 and 1200, you know. And you could do this with any sound, not just drums. Okay, so we're going to place this wave sample on the key that we want. And we see it's already selected. We're in unnamed instrument, layer 1, and we're selected with wave sample 2, right? Okay, so to assign the key range, we go to Edit, Pitch, and you see how that line is under high? We're going to move it back with the arrow to the low side. And we're going to hit C#2, which is the next key above that lowest C. Okay? Okay. Now, one thing to note, when you're chopping samples, like the more when you move them up, however far you move them up, like I'm moving wave sample 2 up a half step from wave sample 1. But the root key is still going to be set to the same root key as wave sample 1, which is C2. So it's going to be pitched up a half step just because of the placement of wave sample 2 on the keyboard. So to fix that so that they play at the same pitch and the same tone if it's a sample, we still in Edit, Pitch, and we're in the wave sample range page. Okay, we set it to C2 sharp. We go back 1 to root key. Well, you scroll through until you get to the root key. You see how it's set to C2, but we're on wave sample 2, and I put it on C#2. So use the up arrow to go up 1/2 step to C#2, right? Still in wave sample 2. Now, right now, we should have 2 copies that sound the same of that kick, that first part of the sample, and they're going to be at the same pitch and everything. Okay? Wave sample 1, wave sample 1, wave sample 2. Okay? Now remember, the hi-hat was the second sound in that sample. So to get that, we go to Edit, Wave, and the start and end time is still set the way we set them for wave sample 1, just to isolate that kick. So what you're going to do to bring the start, you're going to bring the start up to where the hi-hat is. And remember, we moved our end point down to where the hi-hat came in, and it was 6. So go back to sample start. You under this, the course adjustment. You bring it up to 6 at the start. Now we hit the start is at 6. The end is at 6. So now when we play that key that wave sample 2 is assigned to, we shouldn't hear anything, because the end and the start are like this. That's why we're not hearing anything. We're at the start of the hi-hat. So what we need to do is move the end back a little bit so we can isolate that hi-hat. So we go to end. I'm going to bump it up like 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And we should be able to hit the hi-hat, at least the attack. Okay? Hold on, I got something in the oven, man. I got to go to the kitchen and turn this oven off. It's hot in here, man. Alright. Okay, so now let's go to get out of that page so we can I can show you. Wave sample 2, wave sample 1 is the kick. 2 is the hi-hat isolated, and I'm holding the key down, so it's, you don't have to, but I'm just showing you that the rest of the sample is not playing. Okay, now to get the snare, which I believe is the next sound in that sample, we're going to go back. Wave sample 2 is selected. We're going to go back to Command Wave to copy wave sample 2 to unnamed instrument, layer 1, yeah. Parameters only, yeah. Remember, because that saves us memory. Yes, wave sample 3 created. Now we have to assign a key range for wave sample 3, because right now it lives here on the same key that wave sample 2 lives. Okay, and I'm doing it in order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. You know. So while wave sample 3 is still selected, you go to Edit, Pitch, and scroll till you get to the wave sample range. Remember, C#2 to C#2, that's where wave sample 2 lives. Wave sample 3 is going to live a half step next to that key, or above that key, which is here, which would be D natural 2, D natural 2 for the low and high. So we hit D2. Okay, that pitch is off a half step. So go until you see root key and move it so that the key matches, you know, D2 as the root key of wave sample 3 matches with the wave sample range of wave sample 3, D2 to D2. So now we have our copy of wave sample 2, which was the hi-hat. First we had the kick, second sound was the hi-hat. Wave sample 3 is a copy of wave sample 2, and because of where the start and end times of that sample is, it's, for right now, it's also a hi-hat. So we should have the kick, which is wave sample 1, wave sample 2, the hi-hat, wave sample 3, which is an exact copy of wave sample 2, wave sample 3, which is an exact copy of wave sample 2, which is the hi-hat. We should have that here. So, messed up. I was still in the range window. So, wave sample 3 is going to live at D2. Okay, we come out of that screen. So again, wave sample 1, 2, 3, kick, hi-hat, copy of this hi-hat. Okay, now let's get a snare out of the whole sample we took and make that wave sample 3. Go to edit, wave, make note. Okay, our start is at 6, which is where the hi-hat came in. Our end is 11, which is where we cut the hi-hat off. It might have been longer than that. So the first thing I do is I bring the start all the way up to my end, and then I'll move up 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See if we got a snare. And it's a little late, it's a little air in the beginning of it. So that tells me I can move this up a little bit to start. I'll move it up to 1, 2, so we can get that snare right on the attack. I moved it up too much, move it down 1. Okay, still a little air on it, so I'll fine tune it. I'll go over to the fine adjustment area and use the data slider and bring it up. There it is. Now let's make sure that pitch is right for wave sample 3, which is at D2. Lives on that 1 key. And remember, I said it don't have to be on 1 key. You can have it spread across multiple keys, so you can have like a lower tone pitch, multi-pitch. Make sure, okay, it is set to D2. So now we should have wave sample 1, 2, and 3, kick, hi-hat, snare. Right? I think I'm going to grab the that open hi-hat from that Impeach the President. Let's listen to it. Right now, that open hi-hat with that kick on it. So to do that, instead of, I could sit there and chop the whole thing up, but we already at 24 minutes. So I'm gonna just grab the that kick drum with the hi-hat on it, and I'm gonna put it on the next key. As a matter of fact, yeah, I'll put it here. So I go to edit, make sure wave sample 3 is selected, and it is. Command wave, copy wave sample, unnamed instrument, yes. Layer 1, yes. Parameters only, yes. Wave sample 4 created. Edit, wave sample 4 is selected. Pitch. And since I know that the next key up is, D sharp too, I could just move it with the arrow also. So up, go over, up, go back to the root key. There. Now we have a copy of the snare on the adjacent key. I want the bass drum with the open hi-hat under it right here. So go to edit, wave, my start time. I'll leave that where it is now because I'm isolating another part that occurs much later in the sample. So I'll go to my end and I'll move that up quite a bit, and then I'll play. It should lead off with this. It'll lead off with the snare and play the rest of the sample when I hold the key. Okay. Go back to my start. Since that open hi-hat under that kick occurs later, move it to 20, see how close we are. 25. Let's see how close we are. 27. 29. 31. Okay, 31 is it. So I'll bring my end down to 31 and move that up to maybe 41. To see if I can just isolate that kick with that open hi-hat under it. And it's still got a snare at the end of it, so I'll bring it down a little bit to maybe 36, 7. Cut it off a little prematurely, 38. See that? Now, I think our free blocks was like at 30... What was it, 34, 36 or something like that? Let's see. Oh, it was 36 something. 36, 37 or something like that. But we only used, like, out of this place, we only used like 3 or 4 making these copies. Because we used the copy parameters only function instead of using the copy parameters plus data function. So now we have drums chopped. And we don't have to truncate them because it's using that one sample, and you set markers when you set your start and end times. So truncating really won't have an effect. Like, you don't have to worry about truncating when you're doing it like this. But don't take too much of the sample. Just take enough of the sample where you can isolate the portions you need, you know. So we should have wave sample 1, 2, 3, and 4. Kick, hi-hat, snare, kick with an open hi-hat. And I hope that explained it to you. Got any questions, man? Just hit me up on the chat box, man. I'll be on there. Peace and love.